So the data structures is very basic data structures. Go with the algorithms. Like the level of confidence on you when the recruiters comes to LinkedIn increases.
So, a lot of things to talk about in this podcast. So, again, we'll start by understanding your journey into data engineering, because generally, whenever I talk to any data engineers, right, they all have different journeys, and you might know this from your experience also. Like, if some comes from like software development, some comes from like some analyst roles and everything. So, I wanted to start with like understanding your journey and how did you become a data engineer. Yeah.
Thanks, Dasul. First of all, thanks for the opportunity. My journey, I've been passed out in 2013. So then, I have a computer science background. So I've just got landed into a startup company, like where they do all this freelancing kind of stuff. So they don't have a specific product or a big project. They do kind of freelancing stuff. So I've just started with the Java. Like 2 to 3 weeks I've been into Java. Then they said like something called Hadoop, so you have some work on that. So that time, as you know, like people use the word Hadoop than the word big data. So after 2015, only people started using the word big data. But then I started with this Hadoop. Okay, what is this new thing? Again, the map reduce and the Java code, and again, we went with Hive and SQLs, all those stuff, and that's how it started for me. So almost I've been there for 2.5 years. So it's like I've seen the Hadoop evolution, and also Spark entered into picture by the time, and I also started working little bit in Spark as well by that time. I'm saying like around 2014, 15, and all, I just started exploring the Spark as well. So luckily, I can say I just entered into big data without knowing like what exactly the field is going to be. So that is how I just got it landed into it. Yep, that's how it started for me.
So you said like you started with like Hadoop Spark, and then you went into like a lot of different companies. So one of the companies was you worked on the Capgemini, and currently you're working at the PayPal. So these both the companies are like the service based or consulting based, and one is the product based. So what type of work you do, and what is the general difference between both of these companies, like as per the data engineers?
Yeah, sure. I will tell you. So I also worked for AstraZeneca as well. So I worked in different variety actually. So it started with startup, and then I entered into service based where I work for Standard Chartered as a client, and then I moved on to AstraZeneca, where AstraZeneca is comes under captive. It's not product, or it's not service, or it's not a startup. It's an again a variety of captive, because they have drugs, they don't have a tech product, so we call them as captive company. And then I moved on to PayPal, so where finally to a product based company. So the difference, first of all, I'll tell you the startup and the service based difference. What I have seen is, so whereas like if in the startup, like I've been worked in so many tools and components, like almost 7 8 components I used to work on Scoop, Flume, Uzi by the time in 2013 14 by the time. But when I entered into this Capgemini, right, so they have some standard tools, even though it is open source, even though it is big data, they just used to have a standard tools, like they use only Hive. For my first 6 months I've been working only on Hive, so I didn't have the touch or experience on the Java code, so I didn't get that opportunity. My project is that way. So that's how it started, and the learning what I had over there is the data set, and also the process, how to onboard everything, the deployment, the general process what we have for IT. With respect to big data, the what I have seen is, as I told you, the real data, the huge volume of data, whereas like in my startup it was like freelancing, as I told you. So they don't give us the real data to play with, so the performance, the stress testing and all I haven't done over there. But in Capgemini I got that opportunity because it's a banking domain, the Standard Chartered, so I got huge volume of data, the problems. So I thought that this problem would never come into this particular topic, for example in Hive. So suddenly I come to know, okay, even in Hive we used to get this kind of problems. Okay, then we enter into this performance testing and all those stuff. But again, the things are streamlined. So only like two components, three components, not more than that. That's how it went. I've been there for 1 year, and then I moved on to AstraZeneca. I got a good opportunity over there. So in AstraZeneca, I also started. I got an opportunity to work on AWS technologies as well, along with this big data. So in AWS, it's not the flavor of the big data thing. It's a completely a different stuff. So where I worked on S3 and Redshift as a combo, main combo. So that is a flow. That's That's how it started for me. For 3 to 4 months, I've been into Redshift, and then it got migrated to the Hadoop and Spark environment. So where again I got the opportunity to learn new stuff in AWS, but there is no such streamlines. It's like a mixture of service and product. So I don't see any kind of a streamline. So whatever you invent or you do a POC, you just share with them, and they are ready to do. And one good thing with respect to I can say that is a good thing, because the volume of data is very less with respect to AstraZeneca, because they are like pharma, and the drug, at least in my project and my project flow, the data volume is very less. So I didn't face very big performance issues or problems, and that's where like a kind of a small learning that was not there for me. The performance tuning, it's an important part for especially in the data engineering world. So which I got a lot of learnings in Capgemini, but then again here it was not that much. But again I got a new learning of entering into this AWS stuff. So I worked on so many AWS tech stacks over there, and I understood the difference between what these two, especially S3 and HDFS. Running Spark job with S3 as a source system, what will be the impact when I run Spark? The difference between when I run the Spark with HDFS as a file system. This was the one POC I still remember, which I have done to them, and then I said like when you run Spark with HDFS will give you the more good performance than doing with S3. By the time I'm saying so, that's all the POC. And again in Hive also, like we do have something called Athena in AWS. It's similar to this Hive. So I did a performance analysis between those two. But again, it's about like what to say, the performance, the issues and all, like which I have created. So it doesn't something that I get from the project. So it's like a precautionary step that which we have taken. So there is no new issues with respect to the performance that I didn't get from the AstraZeneca. But the work, everything was really good, and I had a very good learning as well. So I've been there for 2 years, almost 2 years, and then I just got an opportunity with PayPal. It was like one day, the whole one day interview. It was like morning 9 to 6, like 7 rounds it was there. So completely it's about architecture. So I just had a one round of coding, that's it. And and that too, like it's not like a very huge number of coding questions. It was not like that actually. So when I entered PayPal, my year of experience is 6. So they've just like had 6 to 7 rounds of interview, completely architecture kind of questions and performance optimization and the tools what I have done other than this big data stuff. And then like what other thing I have done, like the skills which is there for me, for what to say, they also like interested in knowing my other skills which I used to do a self marketing. For example, this YouTube, right? So this played a very important role, which I used to mention this YouTube stuff and my blogs and the resume from 2013, from 2014. But I've been never noticed by interviewers in any of my past interviews. The only place where I got noticed is PayPal. So where like at least 2 rounds, the people have asked me like, what is this channel is all about? They asked me to show the channel, and then I showed them with my mobile phone. And then even the final round was with the director, and where like again they were very curious about what is this, what is your blog, just show me everything. So the last round was didn't even he didn't ask any questions from me. The entire 40 minutes it went by explaining what I'm doing with my YouTube stuff and what I'm doing in my blog, where I really understood self marketing is really very much important, at least for getting into interviews, right? So that then I used to say in my many of my videos, like I used to say, do a self marketing, write a blog, do a YouTube channel, do a copy paste in your LinkedIn, write a post. And that's how you will get a dual benefit, like you have a marketing as well, and then you will get a like what to say, learning with respect to what you are doing. So again, like PayPal encouraged me a lot of doing that actually. So in PayPal, the work wise, it was the team which I got landed. They were doing the migration from the Informatica to this big data platform. It's like starting from point one. Like again, I got a very new learnings, a lot of new learnings, because I've been worked with the source Informatica in AstraZeneca as well, but it was not like from the starting. So in paper, like where I got the opportunity to start from the starting, and like we decided whether to use this or that, or even in the Hive, what type of table structure need to be get created, what number of partitions we can have, what number of buckets we can have, everything. It's like we have decided. So that is something I've never done before. So and then like we also been engaged with the Cloudera team, and then they gave a lot of inputs, and that was a new learning for me. It was really good actually. Even in Spark, like again, what kind of memories that we can can allocate, what kind of an code structure we can do. So that was really interesting, and still now it's like in still in migration phase. It's still going on. We have done a lot of POCs. But that's a current thing with respect to me. And one I can say one sad thing or something like that. So I've been never into streaming so far. So I've made some kind of an learning, self-learning, and I did a freelancing project in the very first company where I did with Storm actually, but I didn't got any experience with the Storm where my friends and my fellow colleagues used to have that experience. At least now in their new companies, like they are getting it. Yeah, I see overall the badge use cases is really high than the streaming. I still understand that, but yeah, I do have that curiosity why I'm not getting that kind of an streaming projects. Yeah, I'm hoping so. I'll get in future at least. So we'll have a lot of learning
Yeah,
actually. Everything is real time. The issues are real time. You will be on fire. So that is how my friend used to be. When like he was with me in my roommate and he was in a streaming project. So the issue that comes, everything is real time, right? So they have to be like that with respect to Kafka and Spark streaming. Like they used to do a lot of things actually.
that's like really in-depth journey, because you started with like working with the startup. You worked on like some of the POCs and understood some of the open source technologies, mainly like Hadoop, Spark, and everything. Then you went on to Capgemini. You started working on more production level, projects. Understood how to actually deliver the projects end to end, because when you work with the in the POC, it's more about just testing things if it works or not. But in the production, you have to make sure that it works at the end. If it doesn't work, then it's not gonna pay you the money. So then you went for the Astrazeneca, also got introduced to cloud platforms, AWS basically, because I generally teach AWS on my channel also. So like you work with the services Athena, Redshift, S3, and some of the other data engineering services. You might be working like Lambda and all the things to create the ETL data pipeline and everything. Then now you're working with the PayPal again on the more of a architecture level senior position, trying to understand the requirements of the business, how you can use that technology. So that's like really long journey, and also your YouTube channel helps you. So we will talk about the marketing part in the further down the podcast, because that's a really important aspect I want to touch on. But let's stick with the data engineering thing, because and also the streaming part. I only got once in my life that worked on the streaming, which was Apache Beam on GCP Dataflow. So I had to create some kind of, they had some blockchain transaction that was coming in real time, and I was just asked to do some transformation and then put that onto BigQuery. So streaming is really cool, but yeah, but you don't get much work on that. So I understand that point. So now you talk about your entire journey. So as a data engineer, what is your day-to-day job like? When like so in the like as a Capgemini, you might be working on some dashboarding tool or something else. So business, you might be working with the business stakeholders, so they ask you something, you might have to create that, or you're just building ETL pipeline, creating like data pipeline or something else. So what's the day-to-day work or different type of works as a data engineer you do on daily basis?
Like with respect to Capgemini, like it started with data lake. So mainly they were concentrated on the cleansing part. So I've been source team used to send the data. It was like I think DB2. Yeah, from the DB2 we used to get the data, and then there is a downstream to which I have to share the data. The downstream is again a data engineering team. They used to work with the Spark and Hive, but still we are also a big data team where we used to do only the cleansing part. So we use this Hive and then Python scripts where we do all this cleansing, and that's how it started. It was not on the real ETL pipeline, so the project which I've been allocated to. But then we created some kind of an POCs in which we told we are doing this cleaning just with the Python, raw Python with Hive. So let's try to do the same cleansing, converting all the Python scripts to Spark actually. So that is how it started, but we decided to go with Scala. So then we created, for example, you have some rows are coming, like you need to identify whether there is a error records in it, or like it's an incremental load. Basically, we used to get an incremental load, so we should not get any old record on the next day incremental load. So all these things we have to check. Like we do have around 40 50 checks. When I joined, it was like 10 checks we used to do, and then by the time when I was leaving Capgemini, the script has been increased. The use cases of cleansing has been increased to 50 to 60 scripts which used to run for for more or almost like 40 countries the scripts has to run, and then it has to generate a very clean data. And the rules which we write is based on the downstream requirement actually. So the rules has been got increased. So I've been not into building the ETL pipeline, but still I was interested with this particular data lake. The time when I was working on data lake, it was not quite familiar terminology, but now it's like becoming a very familiar terms, and companies are creating their own data lake framework internally instead of paying for the open source. I see like there is a lot of open source data lake tools are there, but still people are not ready. Instead, they are creating their own framework by using Spark itself. They are doing, or plain Java. They are doing it. That's what I'm seeing. But then in like this is what the role for me, the day-to-day life role. So I used to get the rules from the downstream, and then we used to create the rules with respect to Spark, and then we do all this kind of an cleansing activities is what I have done. So when it comes to AstraZeneca, so where I got the opportunity to build the pipelines, the transformations, so the transformations logic we used to do. So it's like we used to get the from the business stakeholders through BSA. We used to get the list of transformations which we need to generate. So it's all about like we deal with the representatives, the medical reps of the different countries. Like so, they used to get the data transformation with respect to what they're asking for, and based on that, we used to do all the transformation, and then finally the dashboard we use is MicroStrategy. So where like end user directly they use the dashboard which got generated from MicroStrategy. So there is a downstream team MicroStrategy which they used to get our transformed data. So we used to load finally in Hive after doing all the Spark transformation. Actually, we had two landing over there. It's a two requirement actually. So one landing is we used to do with Hive after processing with Spark, and then there is another landing which is through Redshift. So the transformation also happens in Redshift, and the landing is also like we do with Redshift only. But whereas in big data, the transformation is not in Hive, we do in Spark, and then we land that into Hive. So there is two different dashboards will be generated by the MicroStrategy team by reading our reporting layer data, the data which we have actually landed, right? So they do all this MicroStrategy stuff, but my work is not with respect to MicroStrategy, but I was interested to learn it. So somehow I've been used to sit with them, and then I used to learn this dashboard creation of like how this MicroStrategy people are doing. But that was really cool. They used to do. So where I got the touch of creating the at least a second level of pipeline, because the first level of pipeline which was already built at the ETL pipeline was Informatica, whereas in AstraZeneca also my source was Informatica. So there was two, three for countries they used to still generate the report via Informatica by the time when I was working. Only for like the second part of countries, small regions, and then especially North America. Yeah, that's a big region, of course. So we used to generate this data via big data only for those countries. So we still had two layers actually. So I worked on both the layer, but the problem is I'm not much familiar with Informatica. So I never used to do any kind of an ETL pipeline changes or coding in the Informatica environment. So I used to do only with the Spark, and I'm okay with doing with Redshift also, but Informatica I've never done. So there I got the end-to-end transformation pipeline stuff. So whereas like again with respect to PayPal, like I was working with payments actually. So where we used to get the what to say the requirements from the stakeholders through BSS again. So here the people who use the our payment PayPal as a payment gateway. So we used to call them as a customers or sometimes as a partners, because they also help us to onboard customers to us, right? So here it's like an end-to-end pipeline. So initially it was again Informatica, but then in AstraZeneca, if you see, the second layer of reporting is what we do with big data, not the entire layer. But in PayPal, we plan to remove Informatica and then just use only this Spark and all big data stuff. So the phase one project started with the data that got generated by Informatica. The first level of transformation is completed. The second level of transformation is what we do. That's what the phase one, the same like how it started with AstraZeneca. So then second level is what like we started removing the transformation logics from the Informatica by replicating the same logic in Spark. So it's like a complete code based stuff. So again, small changes to big changes entered into picture by the standards when we move here, the data standards, the transformations or lot it got changed. So BSS help us to get that information as a mapping sheet, and we used to use that mapping sheet to so for example, I have 10 columns. This need to be get populated as a new table, and the data is available. The source is Oracle actually. So you have the data, So those BSAs will help us to get the information for each column, what transformation has to be happened. So it will be in the written statement or it will be in the SQL syntax. So we have to convert that to a Spark, and then we have to do. And also we just built an internal framework in Spark. The framework helps us to, an example I can tell you, the framework helps us to minimize the developers coding work actually. So for example, like I want to connect my Spark with Oracle for read, or sometime I have to connect my Spark with Hive. Sometime I have to connect with NoSQL database. So here we created this as a source code, a source file, which is already there as a dependency code. So just a one-liner, which is enough to invoke to if I want to connect with Oracle, or if I want to connect with Hive, or if I want to connect with any NoSQL database like Cassandra or something like that. So we have written a framework. This is one example just for people to understand. I'm just telling this kind of the framework is doing a lot more than what I explained. The UDFs and all, like it was whatever, it is not there, and everything has been written already. So no need of creating a new UDF. Most of the cases has been covered because the UDF is already a known issue, I mean, sorry, a known information in Informatica itself. So what all the user defined function was required, there is a list already, like money conversion or time date conversion, everything. So what we have done, like we took all the UDF what they have already written in Informatica, we converted that to a Spark code, and that act as a source code. Whenever the UDF is required, we used to get that. So that is a parallel task which we actually worked other than the ETL pipeline building, right? So we developed a framework. So I also hear from so many other my contacts from the different companies, right? The last 3 years, people are saying that we also had our own framework, our own data lake framework, our own extraction framework, and our own processing framework, and more than that. So even your people are very good in Spark and they are very good in coding. When they entered into the companies, they have their own framework and they have to again learn it. So that is what I used to say to all my viewers actually. So when you get into the project, don't panic by seeing their code base. Don't think this is not even there in the Spark, but these guys are using it. Don't think in that way. They might have created their own framework, so they cannot expect you to have all that knowledge because it's not an open source. It's there inside. It will take time for you to learn. So that's what, like, one of my viewer told me that he entered into a new company as a big data engineer, where like he was into a GitHub repository, and he said like it was like 10,000 lines of code that has been written, and it's like they created their own syntax of Spark. So I said, That's fine, that's completely fine, take your time to read completely." So even the guy who worked on the framework might not aware of all the functions, what they have written, the framework functions and those stuff. So the pipeline building is what the current project that I'm working on. So we are not using any dashboards actually. So we used to do all this kind of an data, the landing part, and again from the landing, Hive is actually the landing part for us, and again the downstream will again do some sort of transformation on top of it, and they might use some dashboards. I'm not aware of it, but in our entire core team we are not using dashboards over here. And recent times, like, people started exploring this Google Cloud, and not only in PayPal, I'm saying many of other companies as well, and even here in my team, like, they are doing this POCs on moving this Spark stuff to GCP, like from on-premise to cloud. So that is what the demanding task which is going on now. The POCs are in fire. People are working a lot to do. It's just a complete switch from the existing Cloud Hortonworks to this GCP stuff, Dataproc. Yeah. So in AWS EMR we used to say, right? So I have experience in AWS by this time at least. So not into GCP, but yeah, I'm just learning.
Completely agree with the all the work you do, because I've been in the similar situation. So most of the data engineering projects are somewhat around migration. So they have the legacy system kind of thing. They have like their old ETL scripts and everything, the Informatica part and everything, and they want to move from that tool and build something by their own, write their script so they can have more control over it rather than just using that old tool. So yeah, so getting data from one source to the second source and then doing maybe some transformation, then again putting that data onto somewhere, that is a general project you work on. So second type of projects I used to work on was migration, complete migration. So they have the system, let's say, on MS SQL, and they want to go on, let's say, PostgreSQL. So that is the general project I used to work on. And the dashboarding part also, so I had chances to work on like the end product. So whatever the data we prepare at the end, we need to display it somewhere so that business users can take decisions, and improve the product. So most of the my work was around like end side visualization, building, writing ETL jobs, working with the business people. And as I understand, your work was around like managing the data part. You know how data moves from here and there. You know, trying to keep the streaming alive and move it properly and build a reliable system. So eh, this is what I said. Like every data engineer has like different journey and different experience in their journey. So if you ask them like, oh, what to do, they will tell you something else, and if you ask someone else what to do, and they will tell you something else. So yeah. So with that, I want to ask that let's say there are like a lot of things to learn. So if you like Google the big data landscape, you will get like more than thousands of tools. Now no one can learn everything, so I want to understand like what are the basic skills. Let's say if you're let's just graduated, or if you want to switch from like software engineering to data engineering or some other career, what are the basic skills you should know as a data engineer to get started?
So I see like the prerequisite as well as the core topics it's not been like changed for almost like 3 years. That's what I can see. So the first of all the prerequisite it's for college like recent college graduates, also for the people who worked from a different technology and they wanted to enter into data engineering. For this both the audience I'm telling you the prerequisite is Linux. So Linux is very much important because as you know like the entire environment is going to be the Linux. So some people used to ask me this in comment like I want to install Hadoop in Windows. My next question will be, yeah, I can help you, but why you want to install that in Windows? So if you don't have a Linux, yeah, there is a lot of options that I can tell you to install Linux first on your machine, and then please go ahead with the practicing stuff on Hadoop. So that is my thing. So Linux is very much important. So hardly it takes only like 1 day for you to complete the Linux basic file handling commands and network handling commands is wide enough process level commands. That's it. And the second priority goes to SQL. So that's what I used to say SQL. So any like the flavor of SQL that you can practice is MySQL because most of the thing like especially Hive, for Hive only we are going to use. So for Hive and also like I can say NoSQL database means like we have this Cassandra, and then for HBase we have the layer Phoenix. So if you go for any SQL layer in big data, the syntax will be like more like 90% it will be from MySQL's product SQL only. So I ask people to practice that like mainly. I don't want to go for triggers or stored procedure. We don't need that level of sequels. It's like joins, subqueries, and this what to say this
Window
analytical.
function, yeah.
Exactly, window Ronum. So these are the important stuff you need to know. Hardly 2 days for this or 3 days for this. Like mostly I used to say for SQL means I always used to prefer this W3 school stuff. So that is very cool and wide enough. And third priority is what goes to programming language. So people used to say programming is a second priority, but I don't see in that way. So I see programming language as a third thing which I used to say. And the question people used to ask me 2 years back is whether we need to know Java, and all of a sudden things got changed. In the recent time, people asking me whether I need to know Python. All this because of the PySpark stuff. So I used to say Spark is what you need to know. There is no difference between PySpark or Scala Spark. I used to say this always, and even in my LinkedIn, I used to say repeatedly this stuff. So with respect to programming language, so don't worry about what language you use within big data. It's all about you need to know the knowledge of coding. That's enough. So for that, you can go with Python or Java, Scala. So any one out of these three I used to prefer. So go with the basic OOPS concepts and functional programming, and then string handling, collections, and then JDBC connectivity, file handling. So file handling is not required. Everything is taken care by the framework, but still this is wide enough. It takes 5 days for you to complete at least daily 2 hours. If you spend 5 days is wide enough for you. So these are the three prerequisites to enter into this big data stuff. So once you enter into this, right, what topics I need to learn? So people used to ask me like I hear a lot of components. So one guy like he has around 12 13 years of experience. He called me and said like my neighbor used to say one component, my ex colleague used to say another component, my current colleague used to say another component, and a guy I met in traffic he told me a different component. So the beauty is he started learning everything. So then I told him to stop. So we do have, as you said, like we do have like 10,000 plus components in big data itself. So don't go with it. What industry currently is using is what you have to see. So the industry wise, right? In Hadoop, we take HDFS and Hive. That's it, nothing else. And sometimes Scoop enters into picture. Like you take Pig or Flume or anything else like other than this HDFS, Hive, Scoop, and I can add HBase also. But other than that, everything is got faded away. So please go with HDFS and Hive. It's first priority, and You need to know in and out of what it is. HDFS something will not help you in interview. No one will ask you from HDFS. It's completely for your self understanding only. But Hive is what in and out people will ask you, because still now in the panel people used to come to ask you some questions. But if that guy was from the SQL background, then he will ask questions from Hive only. So he will not ask from Spark. I still see this many times, and I'm still seeing this. They will not even ask one question from Spark because he is not from Spark. So he used to validate the candidate only with the SQL knowledge. So this is what happened for me in AstraZeneca. So they asked me everything from Hive and basic questions in MapReduce, and yeah, that's it. This is what happened, and then I had this coding round and other stuff. So this is what happened. I didn't even get one questions from Spark. So yeah, so I see some things are happening. And when it comes to Spark, so in Hadoop only these two. And when it comes to Spark, Spark SQL, Spark batch, that's it. You don't want to learn anything else like Spark streaming or Kafka. So those things you can enter into like a picture once you complete some real time of 1 year of experience. You get a first job in data engineer, and then you do all the 1 year of real time experience in data engineering, and then you can move on to NoSQL databases and then Kafka streaming and all those stuff. So for the beginners to enter into data engineering, I will never recommend to go with NoSQL databases and streaming especially. So go with Hive, HDFS and Hadoop, Spark, Spark SQL, and Spark. That's it. So you prepare your resume and then you can apply for it. So 90% of questions will come only from these four topics which I'm telling to you. So apart from this, yeah, people can ask you some coding questions, but with respect to big data, you will get only these four. These four tech stacks treated as a mandatory skill set. But if you go for an interview and the guy was asking you with streaming, you can frankly you can say I didn't work on streaming. I don't have an experience. Nothing wrong over there. Even they were asking for HBase question or Cassandra NoSQL, you can still say I didn't get an opportunity to work on it, but I have a learning experience. You can frankly you can say this even as experienced data engineers, like as we used to say the same in the interviews actually. So don't think in a different way when people are asking you that. But mandatory is Spark batch, like in that you cannot say anything, and especially Hive. So again in Hive also you cannot say like this topic I've never worked. For example, if I am in the panel, like I used to ask this Hive acid part, like out of 10 candidates, like at least 7 people used to say I didn't work on acid. So companies started using this acid concepts like for the past 2 years. I'm seeing many places people started using a lot. So but still in the interviews people are saying this, even though you are working or not, try to have complete knowledge of Hive. So that's what I highly used to recommend. Yep.
So as I understand, it's like first of all work on the fundamentals of coding. Pick any language, doesn't matter. SQL because that is really important because you'll be communicating with the database a lot. Then Linux command because again you're working with the remote machines on Linux, firing some commands. And with the Linux command, I say like understand what command does because you can always Google it how to do that, copy paste it and do the work. So you don't have to remember all the commands, just understand basic commands, how to move files and stuff like that. And then we have like understanding the big data fundamentals, the core like Hadoop ecosystem, what are the different components, how they work, like all the like tools you suggested, little bit of Spark, and then you can apply for the job and go ahead. Like I also say like in general I say because the having the knowledge of cloud is also important sometimes because most of the companies uses cloud. So let's say if a company is using AWS, their entire data is on AWS. So if you know a little bit about some of the services, that's a plus point. So just understand those things. That yeah, so that's the entire part. Now coming from let's say we're prepared for it. So what does like a general interview process looks like? Because one of the question I get is a lot is that is DSA important for data engineering or not? You might be getting this right. What should I learn in DSA, dynamic programming? Because this particular like DSA thing is coming from the software engineering background. Because in the software engineering, you do need to know the core DSA or do computer programming to crack interviews. But as a data engineer, we generally don't focus on much on the DSA part. Like basic DSA is required, but as per your experience, like what is the general interview process looks like in the summary, if you want to like tell that. Yeah.
So, like nowadays, I'm seeing this data structures and algorithms as in the JD. Like the people who create the JD, they do have the requirement or not, but it became a very fashion term for the people who creates the JD actually. So I'm seeing this in the recent times. People used to say DSAs are asking only in the product-based companies. No, nowadays I'm seeing in the service-based companies as well. People are asking us. It's there in the JD. As you said, like we don't want that much knowledge of DSS. It's not not required. So even people come from computer science or not, the DSA is again a challenging part for us. Like when it comes to, so I'm going to create a technology like a Spark is where like I need all this much level of informations and the DSA stuff. So the thing is like some level of questions like basic algorithms, especially this list, queue, the map, and this related of array. So this related of data structures is what people are asking in many interviews. I've attended so many interviews, at least to share experience with my viewers, right? So I used to attend some interviews, and people used to ask me. And like nowadays, like they are having this first level of interview in the online test. Again, the same level of question that comes, and then again I see some DSA questions which is related to the performance stuff actually. So that was very new for me. It happened for me like 2 years back for one company I've attended. So the question itself I didn't understand. So that's a thing. So basic DSAs is wide enough. You don't want to jump deep into it. It's highly not required when it comes to work. So if you really start working, you will come to know why I need to know all this DSA stuff. So when I'm my personal thing, I've been into panels in different companies. So I just used to ask one or two questions, and then I will never consider the answer of that question for me to decide whether to select him or not. So I just used to ask, but I never considered that answer actually. So for me, the important thing is what you have done, how you have explained the project with respect to big data. Everything is within that area actually. So if you want to, like, yeah, so everybody will not be like that in the panel, but people used to ask you. So the 1 hour, like if you have the time frame for the interview, 20 to 30 minutes, sometimes max 30 minutes, people can ask you from the data structures. So the data structures is very basic data structures. Go with the algorithms like trees and searching, especially the search algorithm tree, again that comes under the same. And then go with this list, array, set, map, this collection. So collection is again important. So people used to get the people who is asking the question, they confuse with the data structure, algorithm, and this collection. So it will be like a mixture of thing is what the panel people used to ask you. So very basic level of algorithms is enough. You don't want to spend much time in that. So daily a general thing like how you get advice from the different people, the same thing I'm telling you. So just take one question and then practice it. That is wide enough. So once you complete the complete learning stuff of big data is completed, then you have to go for it, because the companies which you attend, like all the companies, they won't ask you this. So only few companies they can ask you, or sometimes more than what you are expecting. But still, like you don't give that much first priority to first, because my viewers used to ask me whether I need to first go with data structures, algorithms, and then I can move on to big data. No, I'll say go with reverse. Go first, try to complete the big data stuff, then move on to this data structure. The basic data structure algorithms and stuff is wide enough. We don't want to get much deep into it. So yeah, as I told you, if I'm in the panel, I'll never consider that actually to ask.
Yeah, so yeah, generally what happens is that people think a lot about the interviews, so they prepare, and they never go for the interview. So what I generally say, like whenever someone faces the issue, learn the basic skills, appear for the interview, and see like what they ask, and based on that, prepare yourself. So if you, even if you get rejected, understand like what are the mistakes you made. Let's say they ask some programming questions for arrays or some trees, learn those things, and then again reappear for some other interviews. You learn something new there also, and based on that, improve your cycle, and you might get a job. So that's the strategy generally people should use, but that is difficult.
Actually, though, I'm the same page as what you said, 100% true. So like people have to attend multiple times, and then that is not only like it's not only the it's rejection part. So your confidence level will get increased, and the very with respect to interview, right, the one biggest skill set is like the way how you are actually explaining the story of the project. So like you should be feel like that you are a director sitting in front of a producer to satisfy him by telling the story. So this is what important. So that storyline, the build up what you are doing for the project explanation will increase level by level once you started attending the interviews actually. So because if you see any interviews, right, we if you have 4 rounds, things will repeat. So all the 4 rounds, I have to again start from what is my project. The next guy comes and he will ask me what is the project, what is the project. So that way, what it will be, right? So you will get more experience in the way how you actually explain. So if you see for Darshil or for me, so we do have some practice of making the content and explaining this in YouTube. So somehow we have that skill set by default. At least we got tuned with our experience. But for the people like the newcomers, right? So sometimes people used to work for a same company 7 years and then they will move on to another company after 7 years. So they don't have any idea about how to again attend the interview after 7 years. So the one thing I'm telling you is the storyline is very important. So one of my friend, he was into data for 7 years, into traditional Oracle Informatica, and also he has experience in big data as well. So the problem that he faced, he's very good in communication, so even he's very good in communication, but the thing is the storyline. So that is what the very thing. So he's actually a demanded resource in that project. Actually, I've seen him, I worked with him actually. So he was my upstream guy, so he was a demanding resource in the team. He knows in and out of the project, but the problem what he faces, he couldn't explain the project from the flow. So starting point and the midpoint and the end point. So that is what the very important. So as Darshil said, so you have to keep on attending the interviews. So your storyline will get tuned and it will be get mutated a lot. Yep. Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like basically have the good communication skill, and that will only gets developed after you attend a lot of interviews. And it's a skill like you should be able to sell yourself because you're there for the interview. So whatever the projects you have done, everything, tell from the start what was the problem, what was the solution, what was your role into that, how many people were that, and how did you deliver the project. That's the thing they want to hear. They don't want to hear like you have done this certification or this course. That's fine. What did you do there? Tell me that part. So yeah, completely agree with that point. And this will happen as you grow in your career, right? It's not like it should happen in like 1 month only or 1 week. Take a time like 6 months, 1 year, and it will happen. So yeah, so we almost covered everything about the data engineering. Now initially you touched on the point of content creation, that helps in the career also. So generally, like when I was getting started, I had like this thought like, why would anyone listen to me? Like I'm just a beginner, so even if I create a content, why would anyone listen to me? But the myth burst when I understood like I know Python, but a lot of the other people don't know Python. So I used to assume that yeah, everyone knows Python. That was my assumption because Python is very common. But then I found out like, a lot of people don't know Python, so I can help them to understand. Like, so I can share my knowledge. So this is the general mindset people when they get started. So I just want to understand like how do you get started with the like basic content creation, like on LinkedIn or on Medium post, or even if you want to create the YouTube channel or anything. So how do you get started with the first step? Yeah, the mindset and the actual execution. Yeah.
Exactly. So the very first step, like I started my channel, especially from I will start with my story, and so started for Java. So uploading Java videos, and that too I've started only for my college juniors. So by the time, so I started uploading in Tamil. So that's by the time 2014, I think I didn't even know that there is an option called AdSense monetization. So nowadays even a kids knows that very well. So I started uploading video. I even reached like 2000 3000 subscribers, but even that point of time I don't know like I can make money with this YouTube content, all those stuff. So I started this way. So I started uploading the Java concept. I used to learn. I was preparing for my interviews, and then I started thinking why I can upload in the YouTube, and then I can share with my college juniors. The 40 to 50 peoples are there, so I thought of doing it. So somehow like what happened, like some public clicks happened for me. So people started seeing my videos, and I got the comment like it was nice and all those stuff. And after I was entering into the companies, right? So my colleagues used to come to know, okay, I have a channel with Java videos, and they started getting asking the links, and I used to share. And one guy told me like he's from Andhra Pradesh, so he told me like you can try in English also, right? So that was not in my mind by the time. So I said like yeah, okay, I can try. So then I just again started uploading all, like by the time I uploaded 20 videos in Java. So again I started creating that in English, and then I started making any videos. From that point of time I used to make it in two languages, like the language which I know Tamil, and then the language which I know English. So I used to make it's a completely two different videos I used to do. So this is how it started. So then I started off thinking, why can't I do some other topics other than Java? And that's where like I entered into this Linux, and then I entered into the databases, and somehow it started like this. Even Python, I worked in Android for some time. So again, like I just uploaded those Android videos, web applications, so and cloud, and then and then I've started this big data Hadoop stuff, and then I started, okay, let's do this data engineering stuff. So initially it was like I started my channel as A to Z knowledge, and then later I was created a goal. So everything, whatever I do hereafter, it goes related to data. So that's why I changed my channel to data engineering. So again, slowly I've learned everything like this keyword and adding monetization, the thumbnail stuff, and then recording, editing, and all those stuff. It's a really big task to do. One very important thing, people who create content for this kind of education channel, and especially with respect to your topic, for example, not only data engineering, anything else, you are a web developer or an Android developer, the one thing which we need to know is like we do have a unique target audience. It's not a multi-target audience. So people used to compare the YouTube channel with a celebrity, which we should not do, because I have done that. So I used to give up at some time. So I am not getting the subscribers, so I'm not getting the silver play button. So people used to think this way because like you are different. So we are like having a target audience. So that is one thing you need to know. So the main thing that which we need to get from the channel, or not only channel, from the blogs or the YouTube channel you do, is marketing. So that is what important for us. And secondary, you will get some money with the work what you are doing if actually the monetization works well for you. So you will get some kind of an income from this as well, and you will get opportunities for freelancing as well. So that is a very important thing. When people see you in a very big platform, and then they will believe you, and then they will come for you to get some collaborations, and then freelancing projects kind of stuff that comes to you actually. So the very big platform that for, especially for data engineers or the tech computer science people, the IT guys, is the very big platform is LinkedIn and then YouTube. So these are the very two big platforms. And even now I see people are not even having this LinkedIn profile. I see many of the people, still people who are in IT, still they are not doing this. So I used to say, please go ahead and create a LinkedIn profile. So Twitter will not help you, Facebook will not help you. Instagrams will help you sometime now. Some people are creating some content in Instagram, and that is also fine. So I used to say, yeah, Instagram, but LinkedIn is what the highly thing, because most of the big CEOs or people will not be there in Instagram thing. So, but they will be in the LinkedIn part. So you will get a lot of information from it, and the branding. So you can do your branding and marketing in LinkedIn only. So YouTube channel is again whatever the content you learn, you do. Just you go ahead and create a channel. It's completely free, so you can do it. Because people used to ask me, my one of my senior colleague asked me whether we have to pay something to create a channel. So that's why I use the word. It's completely free. You can do it. And LinkedIn, so you start by doing a copy paste. Go to any engineering blog, Facebook engineering blog, even Zomato engineering blog, or Uber engineering blog. Just learn something, and if you want to rewrite the content with an understanding way, is fine. Or just do a copy paste and then share it in your LinkedIn and highlight what you have learned from it, or just do a copy paste. It's completely fine. Add all the appropriate keywords, and you can trigger writing the post. Or you can go, as Darshil said, you can go for Medium, or you have Google Blogger where you can write a blogger. You don't want to go for create your own website. So those things are not required. Just we do have a lot of platforms nowadays, so you can go in that way. And even the score on Stack Overflow is also very important. So in Stack Overflow also, you can like you can repeatedly ask questions, and then you can give some answers for it. So in my entire experience, right, so anything that I search for a solution which I need, I used to get from Stack Overflow and Quora. So anything that I get is fine, but I used to note down something which I'm not getting from Stack Overflow. But finally, when I found the solution, I used to reply to that thing actually. Even though it's been 6 months later, I'm getting that also, but still I used to go there and I used to do this. So recently, I'll tell you one example. This in Hive, ACID tables has an issue with reading it from the Spark. So when you read it from the Spark, you will not get any output for Hive ACID table, but we have solution for it. But it's not like a one shot of solution. We do have that bug, or I can say that feature is not yet added in Spark. So we are expecting that in 3, but again in 3 also, like, we are facing the same issue. But you have alternates, that's completely fine. But there is no straightforward thing, right? So we do like 5 to 6 solution is what I've created, like with the help of internet. I just finalized some 6 solutions, and I have written that in my LinkedIn post, and people frequently started searching for it. I come to know like many people used to say, when I search for this Hive Spark issue, I'm getting landed to your LinkedIn post only. So that's what people are saying actually. So I was not able to replicate that in my local system. That's why I couldn't make the video so far, but I'm trying to do. But people used to go to my LinkedIn page and they used to say your LinkedIn posts have really helped a lot. So this is what something you find the solution, but not in the very big platform like Stack Overflow. Quora didn't help you, but you really got the solution. Then go to Stack Overflow and add it. So you can add your Stack Overflow also in your resume. That also plays a very important thing actually. Quora or Stack Overflow. I recommend Stack Overflow. So that you can do, or you can when I'm in a free time, I used to search for the questions in Stack Overflow, and I used to respond if some questions which I'm familiar with the answers, right? I used to respond so that your rating in Stack Overflow will get increase actually. So you will get some badges, and same way LinkedIn also. The way you design the profile in LinkedIn, your rating will increase. So that helps for the recruiters to get your profile on the top. So that's a main thing. So like when if you see like in a day like 2 to 3 recruiters in average I used to get. So the job opportunity. So that's a thing I used to always ask people to do actually. Yep.
Yeah, so as I understand, like uh the first goal of the like content creation is should not be just about the money. It should start with like the thing you want to share your knowledge actually and add value to the people, because if you just focus on like the money part, then you are most likely to give up, because that's the end, if it is the end goal. So you start with like picking one niche. So let's say you're good with Python or Spark or whatever it is, doesn't matter. You will find the audience for that, so you start sharing your knowledge. And I see a lot of people do like these days, they write about only Scala or only Spark or like some specific system, and they share their knowledge. So this is how you get started. It's like, as you said, like Gautam perfectly said, you start with the copy paste initially, because you can't write in like when you get started, you have to think a lot, so you don't have the confidence. So you start with like little bit copy paste, then you add your own creativity, create like different points, and you design, and you'll eventually understand how to actually write things. So this is how you get started, and LinkedIn is the best platform, like because the one thing I love about LinkedIn is that if you write something, and most of the time recruiters are like looking for the people on the LinkedIn, I have a like friend who is a recruiter, and she basically spends the entire day looking for like right people to hire for their company. So they always look for the like those people, and if your blog comes up and if they are looking for the similar people, then they will directly reach out to you. You will have the upper hand, because they reached out to you, so you can apply there and talk there and share your knowledge. You can mention that content creation part, so companies love that, because this is like the kind of the verification that you know something. So you don't have to just have the resume. You can show the content creation YouTube channel or anything. Yes, yeah.
That verification, the word I really likes, because nowadays like the recruiters are not going with the job portals actually. They're going with the LinkedIn. So this LinkedIn platinum and the stuff, I don't remember exactly what it is. So they're paying for that plan, and they are getting
Yeah.
the actual profile itself. And one more thing, like the level of confidence on you when the recruiters comes to LinkedIn increases, because it's LinkedIn is not like not only the social media platform, it also a portal, a job portal. It acts in that way, and you are already connected with the real life work environment peoples. Your manager is there, your colleagues are there. It's not like something you can hide or something like that. People are sharing their project abstract and all those stuff. So this is where like people the post you are doing or the projects whatever you are doing, it has a date when you have actually created it, posted it. So all these parameters that helps the recruiter to really create some kind of a faith on you, so that the confidence for them on us is very important. So that as Darshil said, the verification. So that the
Yeah.
verification, the mark, the points which LinkedIn gives on our profile is really kind of a guaranteed one. So that's why I used to say, go with your LinkedIn. Don't like what to say, like don't waste the time. Instead, you do, because the date matters, right? So sometimes when they say like it's not because that you have already dropped a paper and then in the 3 months you have written this. So people will think in that way. So it's like you are not having a requirement of jobs, which is also fine, but still go ahead and do some kind of a blog post and thing. It has the history of events that you have done, so that really helps for the people, the
Yeah.
recruiters actually.
Yeah, so it's like it opens like a lot of opportunities doors. So you can always have something if you like create content, so you can always have the opportunities in the future. So yeah, so we talked on a lot of different things. So it's like kind of the end of the podcast. So just to your final advice, right? If you want to share with the aspiring data engineers, what will be that? Yeah, just like small bit of advice. Yeah.
So the main thing, like the advice what I used to give. So one thing what I always used to see is people are like learning complete stuff. They're trying to learn everything. So that's what they are doing, and they are like I'm telling about the experienced people, the data engineers, not only the newcomers. The experienced data engineers also doing this as a mistake. So they are trying to, I want to learn everything. I want to learn completely. So don't do that. So try to understand what industry is needed. So that way you can start focusing on the stuff. And the second thing what I'm trying to say is data engineers, they have a goal of to become a data scientist, and the goal is not like, okay, it's a goal so I have to achieve it. So it's not like that. So compared to making an effort for becoming a data engineer, is comparatively the effort that you have to put for data science is high, because the more into mathematics, algorithm, statistics is what the entire thing. It's not the pre-automated tool is ready and I learned the tool, so I'm a data scientist. So don't do that mistake. So why I'm telling this as an advice to the data engineers, right? So most of the people, they are just dropping their data engineering career and they are getting into data science, and even they are getting a job and they are getting a lot of pressure. When the real work comes, they don't know how to do it. See, in the data engineering, even though you don't know, people are there to help you. Even people from Oracle, they can help you with the SQL part. The guy from Java, they can help you on the Spark part or MapReduce part. But when it comes to data science, everybody is new. Everybody is new to mathematics, computer science. Every computer science or engineering background, the arts and science people are new to that stuff actually. So when you are entering into data science, try to understand completely. Even it takes some years for you to get understand. So don't get into that area without knowing anything. So that's a main part, because data
Yeah.
engineering and data science is a, it's a parallel thing. People used to think like data science is what the biggest in market as of now, but not the data engineering. Data engineer, the demand and supply are equal, but data science, the demand and supply is not equal. But the pay wise, yeah, you are getting good. But the thing is, the real work when it comes, people are like, they are into pressure and stress. I've seen so many people in my channel, through my channel, they used to come. I've made a lot of videos on this. They used to come and they used to ask me like, yeah, I've been into that situation now, what to do, how to come out of this. So that's a main important thing. So with respect to this is what my two advice. So even in data engineering, learn the important components which is required. Just don't learn everything. That's a thing, because some part of time you will have the mindful of like even if it's like a, it will overflow and then you will forget everything, you will miss somewhere. Like, so recently one of my viewer told me that I've learned everything but I still miss, I don't know, like why I'm getting that feeling. Then I told him that unlearn everything, just unlearn, and just focus on the four topics what I'm told you, complete this, get into the job, then slowly learn what is required. So as Darshil told me initially, right? So the cloud, so cloud, it was like initially it was like a optional skill set. Even now it's an optional skill set. I used to say it's a second add on. It's like a shides or something I used to say for the data engineers. But like within next 2 to 3 years, it becomes a mandatory skill set for the data engineers as well. So try to have that. So that is good. So learning data cloud with AWS or Azure or Google Cloud, go with anything. So that is good. If you are learning that, I will say, yeah, okay, go ahead. So try to know what to learn and then learn it. So don't learn everything. And again, this data science part, make sure that you are learning it in depth. So that's what very important. So this is the two advice I used to give generally for all
Yeah.
the data engineers to focus better.
So yeah, that was like this is like the first time I've had like this long podcast, because generally you talk like 20-30 minutes and it's over, but this is like the in-depth like core data engineering podcast I ever had. So thank you for doing this. Like this was like really amazing. Yeah. So yes, thank you, and hope to see you next on my channel. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Darshal.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your viewers as well. Thank you so much.